Oppai Hunter.
Touya Mochizuki was a normal teenage boy until he got accidentally killed by God. As an apology in his new resurrected life in a fantasy world, he is given the chance to have any one request filled as he pleases. He chooses to bring his smartphone with him to help him through life. As a further apology, God also amplifies all of his abilities in his new life, making him very powerful and, as we see, very appealing to the ladies. With his abilities, smartphone, and groups, he goes on many adventures, meeting many new people.
物語
This story was not coherent at all, and I hated it so much. I was very bored while watching it because most of it felt useless and it felt like filler. Even when he met new girls that would become love interests, it still felt like filler meeting them. There's no real point to the story as he already was powerful, so he didn't need to train. He got everything he wanted, so he didn't need to work to be rich or noble. And he was quote-unquote nice, so he easily got the ladies to like him, even though he was super dense about them liking him. There's nothing you could really do with this story. It was just all over the place. Nothing felt interesting or important, so it just ended up being very bad. Even a basic slice of life had a more coherent story than this. Some of the plot and actions that happened in the story just felt out of nowhere, like when Touya just made a gun, which felt very out of place in this fantasy world. So overall, the story was probably one of the worst parts.
I agree with Monica. The story was very plotless and all over the place. It genuinely does feel like you're just watching 12 filler episodes, especially towards the middle and end. It tries to throw in some important plot details like the gardens and stuff like that, but it just turns into Toya's harem dilemma, and it's just absolutely absurd. I was literally baffled at the end because of just how garbage it was. I'll talk more about it once I get to the entertainment value and final score, but the ending, just garbage. 0 out of 10 ending. Worst ending I've ever seen.
Basically, the series just has too many things going on at all times, and little to none of it matters in the grand scope of the entire series. Because it's fairly common for isekai in this sort of setting to have a bunch of smaller quests that the teams go on while they are eventually working towards the bigger quest to keep us invested in the series, but this did not have that. We were not working towards anything with the smaller quests. It's not like we needed to gain money, power, or anything. It was just all handed to the characters, and as mentioned, it just kind of ends up devolving into this harem aspect because nothing else matters at all. And I don't mind harem anime every now and then, but this is probably the worst example that I've ever seen of it. The main character is insanely dense. We've had Villainous where she was dense, but this guy is a literal rock for a brain. And there's no real connection between the love interest either. And they ended up going with the let's all marry him trope in the end of the day. And they're all okay with it. And we're supposed to be getting a total of 9 girls in this harem that are all okay with being married with him. It's like, what the fuck? And I can't imagine how painful it will be to watch the rest of the girls get added to this mix if this world is ever damned to have a second season of this garbage.
文字
Touya is literally Jesus, and it's the most annoying character trait I've ever seen. I've never seen a more obnoxious use of like overpoweredness. Like we've mentioned, there are isekai where the hero is powerful, like an isekai cheat magician. Yeah, the main characters are powerful, but they have some trouble sometimes. Touya has 0 trouble throughout the entire series, and he's just accidentally Jesus, and he's like, okay, I just happen to be this powerful, and everyone just goes along with it. Touya is literally worshipped by everyone, and all the girls just flock to him and want to be with him. There is no chemistry between any of the characters, but they all just love Touya because he's nice. There's no definitive reasons why they like him other than, oh, they saved him one time, or he's a nice guy. That is the only reason why the girls like him. And the girls aren't interesting themselves. They're all just the same personality with different color swaps. It blows my mind how bad this harem was written.
The characters suck.
That's an understatement.
There's no depth to anybody in this show. Nobody grows. There's no development. We start the show with the characters just being powerful and having no trouble with whatever's happening. And thus, we just end up with a bunch of pieces of cardboard just walking around doing whatever the fuck. And I liked absolutely none of the characters in the show.
To quickly add to what Jason said about growing, I'd argue that they regressed over the show because they just evolve into Touya's girlfriends. They had the inkling to try to have a personality, but they just devolved on a reckless train going forward.
So, like Jason said, this is all I wrote in my notes, by the way. I'll say more, but I just wrote they all sucked. Just like Jason. They sucked. They can all be defined by one characteristic. That's it. They had no death. Probably the best death would be Yai, because we met her family for like 2 seconds. But overall, it's just none of them were good. They were so uninteresting and unbearable to watch.
エンターテインメントの価値
Now, I honestly have little to nothing positive to say for this section. As stated in past sections, there's no depth to any aspect of this series. The story's meaningless, the characters are painfully bland, the action sequences are few and far between, and aren't interesting because of how OP Touya is, so there's no stakes with the battles. Lastly, the humor is very flat. The delivery of the jokes are monotone most of the time, and not in a way that helps the jokes be more funny like a Konosuba would do. And then, almost every fight or encounter ends up with the same slip magic spell that he uses in every single encounter since he learns the damn thing. I have to admit that we did laugh every once in a while, but it was just at the absurdity of the series. Like Monica mentioned, Touya makes a fucking gun, and it's just so out of nowhere in this fantasy world. And the fights where characters would just be running away and he'd just shoot them in the back. Other than that, it doesn't make up for the fact that 90% of the series is pure and just ruthless pain to watch through.
So I kind of said the same thing as Jason again. I laughed at like some of those random gun moments. It was just so out of nowhere, something you wouldn't expect, and it was just so crazy to watch. But those moments were few and far between. There may be like 4 moments I busted out laughing from watching Touya shoot someone, and that's it. The rest of the time, I grunted about how stupid this anime was to watch, and I prayed for it to be over sooner, but it was so hard to get through. It wasn't even funny bad, like how some animes are. It was just horrible. It was plain bad, and it was not entertaining to watch at all.
Let the record know Monica picked this anime.
Shut up. I regret my choice.
So, this anime was one of the most boring I have ever seen. There's no getting around that. The only thing I liked about this anime was Paula the stuffed bear. And she didn't even talk. She just made squeaky noises. That's the only enjoyment I found out of this anime. The action scenes were almost non-existent, and it was just at one point it just became Touya shooting his fucking gun. Oh god. Except at the end, when Yae and what's her name? Elsie, whatever the fuck her name is, were fighting him, and they just somehow won against him because his gun was shooting rubber blanks. This anime's so bad. Don't watch it.
最高の女の子
They're all underage and gross. None of them are best girl. They're all like 10 years old. The best girl in my mind is Paula the bear. She had no speaking line. And she came during like the last half of the anime. And I found her 100 times better than all of the other girls combined.
I'll let it be known for the section I put haha no. But if I had to pick one, it'd be Olga, I guess. She's like a Raftalia knockoff. She was in the show for like 2 episodes, but she wasn't 12, so guess that's best girl. The anime really had a thing for underage sex appeal. Thanks, anime.
Gross.
I think it was clear in the character section, but even if the age thing wasn't a problem, the characters aren't good enough to have a best girl regardless. There's no personality to latch onto this character other than one of the sisters, I don't know what her name was, is like tsundere, but that's all she had. And then that kind of faded as time went on. As we mentioned, the characters just evolve into I love Touya, and that's it. If I had to pick one, I'd pick the goddess of love that shows up at the very end of the series because she's hot. That's all I got.
最終スコア
My final score is a 1 out of 10. The anime is one of the worst anime I've seen in recent memory. At least Isekai Cheat Magician was funny bad. This is just boring, bland bad. And I have 0 reasons to recommend this anime. The ending where... spoilers, but who cares? Touya just marries all of them, left me speechless, and I believe this anime was written by an incel who needed a self-insert. And it's so bad that I can't believe it exists.
In Another World with my smartphone gets a fat 1 out of 10 for me. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, redeemable about this series. I can take a bad show or movie that I can enjoy from how bad it is, but this show is just pain. Avoid it at all costs. Don't watch it normally. Don't watch it ironically. Don't watch it to see if it's actually as bad as we're saying it is. Just don't. Don't watch it.
Clearly our brain has been melted from this show.
Unanimous 1 out of 10. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I hated thinking that I have to keep watching it. It made me lose brain cells, legit. It was the worst thing I've ever watched. And I never, ever, no matter how much someone paid me, want to watch this again.
Mind you, we went from one of the best reviewed anime to the worst reviewed anime on Oppai Hunters.
So in conclusion, the show is dog shit. It's 1 out of 10. Don't believe my anime list, which gives it like a 6.4. It's a 1. Don't watch it. Watch literally anything else. Do I have to recommend One Piece again? Rising of the Sealed Hero. We'll watch that eventually. Don't fucking watch this.
You know what you could do instead of watching this garbage anime? You could like this video, you could subscribe, you could watch all the other videos, or we're going to make you watch this anime until you do. Don't let us do this to you. I'm watching. I'm gonna assume you pressed it now. I better see 1,000 likes on this video.